Okay, sorry guys, I have no idea what happened there. We're just gonna have to restart the post-game stream, I guess. Denver Broncos again lose a brutal game to the Houston Texans 22-17 in a game that Russell Wilson just played absolutely terrible. Russell Wilson was easily the reason why the Denver Broncos lost that game. The dude had 3 horrible interceptions. He also missed a walk-in touchdown to Marvin Mims. An inexcusably bad game from Russell Wilson. Defensively, although we had some bad plays for sure, I thought defense fought their tails off and really did a really good effort to keep us in this game for the most part. There were some dumb mistakes defensively. You think to that Alex Singleton penalty especially, but overall, man, the main reason why the Denver Broncos got a loss today was because our quarterback did not deliver in the big moment when we needed him to deliver, and it's devastating for the Denver Broncos. This is a game that certainly hurts their playoff chances big time. It doesn't completely eliminate the Broncos from playoff contention or anything of that nature, but it does big time hurt the Broncos' chances, and that's unfortunate, man. Right now, we're watching the last little bit of Titans Colts transpire. It's tied at 25. Looks like it's probably going to go into overtime here. This is a game that the Broncos really need the Tennessee Titans to come out with a win, because if they do come out with a win here, that'll put the Indianapolis Colts a little bit further behind the 8 ball. Currently, they hold the number 8 seed. We hold the number 9 seed. We've got Browntown in the house today. That was a tough place to play, and they still almost came out the win. I feel good going forward with Denver and Russ. Go Broncos. We got Mundungus Creevy in the house, my fellow co-host on the 5280 podcast, saying, okay, I will repeat, 2 of those interceptions were tipped by Anderson because McGlinchey cannot block. Yeah, I mean, okay, so the first one, the one that really was on the first part of the half, that one was tipped, but I'm also going to put that on Russ for a stare down because it allowed Anderson to telegraph it. The second one I'll have to re-review. That was a tough loss, DS says. It was. It was a demoralizing loss. It felt like at the end the Broncos just were overmatched by a young, uprising team in the Houston Texans. Credit goes to Houston. They fought a really hard fight today. But at the end of the day, man, the Denver Broncos fall down to 6-6 and are now currently holding the number 9 seed, depending on what happens here with this Indianapolis game. Why would somebody ever throw the ball to somebody you just called up? I don't know, man. There's a lot of just a series of unfortunate events in this game. I again think back to the throw from Russell Wilson that he missed to Marvin Mims. That's probably the most frustrating one for me because that really was the difference in points in this game. That could have been a walk-in touchdown. And say what you want about the officials. Should have been pass interference, absolutely. But at the end of the day, it also should have been a walk-in touchdown. The tight end ran a bad route. Had he got in front of the DB or linebacker, he would have caught it. But he was behind them, not in front of them. Bad route by the tight end. You know, let's go ahead and actually review that. Let's see if I can get that play up here. All right. I got the play. We're going to do a little live film study here. This loss is on the offensive line just as much as it's on Wilson. I definitely would agree the offensive line didn't play well, Mundungus. DS says we need a tight end. Sun suggests maybe Zach Ertz. That's a possibility. I think Zach Ertz goes back to Philadelphia personally. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in here. Take a little live film review of this play. It's 3rd down and goal here. We've got a little bunch formation up at the top of the screen. This appears to be man coverage here for the Houston Texans. And instead, they actually drop back into zone. And you'll see that Russell's getting pressured pretty much right away right there. Garrett Bowles just gets absolutely destroyed on that one. And then Russ is able to spin around and kind of hangs that one up there into a double coverage by Lucas Kroll. Yeah, Kroll could have caught in front of it, but I don't know, man. That's just one where Russ is trying to make something happen there at the end of the game. I can't really crap on him too much about that, but there were other plays that Russell Wilson absolutely failed to deliver in the big moments, and unfortunately, that's what ultimately ended up costing us. The offensive line wasn't great. Will Anderson was an absolute game wrecker in this one. I mean, from the special teams to defense, he was all over the field. Will Anderson, an absolute stud. That's exactly why the Texans traded up to go get him after already selecting CJ Stroud number 2 overall. That is exactly why. It sucks to lose, but we played a very tough Texans team. We were so close to come down with a win. We were, but at the end of the day, it was close but no cigar. Close but no cigar. Come over here. Let's take a look at some of the stats from this 22-17 game. Again, just a devastating loss for the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson was 15 for 26, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. I thought overall the run game didn't really do what it needed to do. I thought we didn't commit to the run game early and often enough. The game planning from Sean Payton, in my opinion, was not the greatest in this one. Javonte Williams, 13 carries for 46 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Russell Wilson, your second leading rusher, 10 carries, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Where the hell was Samaje Perine, man? 1 carry for 1 yard in the receiving game, 2 catches for 5 yards. We pivoted away from utilizing Samaje Perine in this one, which is incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. Cortland Sutton, 2 catches, 77 yards, and the touchdown. That was a beautiful throw by Russ. That was a beautiful play. The whole shot to Jerry Jeudy was a very beautiful play. Russ had a couple nice plays in this game, but at the end of the day, it just was not good enough. Defensively, Alex Singleton, I thought, had some rough moments for sure, but he also had a really awesome sack. PJ Locke was played really well today. I thought Jaquan McMillan played well. Fabian Moreau got burnt on a touchdown, and then a miscommunication between Pat Surtain and or it wasn't a touchdown, but it was a big play, and then a miscommunication between Pat Surtain and PJ Locke ended up causing another big play offensively. But overall, I felt like the defense really kept us in that game. This could have been a much bigger margin of victory for the Houston Texans. They could have easily put up a 40-burger on us, and our defense kept them from doing that. Offensively, we did not reward them, and that was the big pitfall for the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson, again, just wasn't good enough. The offensive line wasn't good enough. The run game wasn't good enough. Sean Payton wasn't good enough. It all around just wasn't good enough on the offensive side of the ball. And the Broncos are at a point where you basically cannot afford to make too many more mistakes going forward. It should have been a touchdown. Troutman got it first. We need to cut Russ next year. We aren't good enough with him. I unfortunately agree. I mean, this team has shown flashes that they could be contenders with Russ, but then Russ comes back out and has a performance like this. I mean, he was resilient. He fought towards the end. I will definitely give him that, but this is a results-oriented business, and at the end of the day, right now, the results just aren't there, and the Denver Broncos, I mean, it's an incredible story going on a 5-game winning streak after starting the year 1-5, but now we're 6-6, and we really need the Tennessee Titans to be able to squeak out a win in this game. They are currently driving in overtime right now against the Indianapolis Colts. Let's see if Sean Payton is up at the podium yet, Broncos country. We will definitely bring Sean Payton in. Yes, he is at the podium right now. Said that the Broncos were way too sloppy today. I definitely would agree with that. Cut Wilson and get who? I don't know, man. The Broncos are kind of in a tough spot right now. They really are. They really are. Because you really kind of played yourself out of potentially getting a top-tier quarterback in the draft. Your best bet's probably someone in free agency. I mean, with Russell Wilson, are you really going to justify keeping him here on a $50 million contract when his big money stops, or when his big money starts this year? At the end of the day, man, it's tough, but the Broncos have to get out of that deal. They have to get out of that deal. I'm just waiting for the press conference to officially start on Twitter, guys, and once that starts, we will go ahead and bring that in. Or maybe protect him better because he got pressure on most of the snaps. Some of those pressures were also self-induced. Don't get me wrong. The offensive line didn't play great, especially against Will Anderson. But on the whole, man, this is a loss that is on Russell Wilson today. When you score only 3 points in the first half, you ain't winning all that much. Yep. And we should have scored 7 points on that drive, quite frankly. Come on, man. Where's the freaking press conference? Let's see if it's on Facebook, because it's clearly not on Twitter yet. Second interception, what the F? Why did the ref stand there draining our lake? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Or draining our play clock. The Texans were able to adjust everything, and Russ had to rush the snap without being able to read. I'll have to review that one again. I really will, because, yeah, it's just all kind of jumbled in the moment right now. I'm still emotionally really frustrated after this one, so I'll have to go back and review that one again for sure. I do think the Texans are a better team than the Lions right now. I mean, the Texans are playing some great football. They are playing some of the best football that we've seen out of any of the Broncos opponents that we've played recently. Kansas City didn't play their best football in the game that we played them. I mean, Buffalo certainly didn't play their best football in the game that we played them. The Broncos were lucky in those games. They caught an opponent that's red hot right now and is very hungry in the Houston Texans. And the Broncos just didn't show that fight and that hunger today. They didn't show any of that. And that's the part I think that frustrates me the most, is that this was in all essence a playoff game for the Denver Broncos. This is one they had to win. And this is one that the Broncos basically had to go out there and treat this as if it was one that, if you lost, it was going to tank your entire season. They didn't do that. They didn't show that fight. They didn't show that hunger that we've seen from the team over the past few weeks. They played down to the Texans today, and the Texans basically made them pay for it. And it's really, really unfortunate, because the Broncos had their chances in this game. They had so many big breaks that continued to bounce their way, from Houston penalties to obviously the fumble there from Samaje Perine. That very easily could have been called a fumble. There was a penalty on Russ where he slid, and that extended a drive there for Denver. That there was just so many times where the Broncos got bailed out, and at the end of the day, they couldn't overcome their own self-inflicted wounds. It felt like fate and the refs wanted the Broncos to win this game, and the Broncos themselves didn't want to win this game. That's the frustrating part. They didn't play well enough, and it seemed like they didn't care. It was after they were losing. Yep. The last time the Broncos were at 500, that was the Super Bowl, the 2015 Super Bowl. Beating 500 isn't that bad. We improved to get that record. And I'm not trying to take away from what the Broncos did in that 5-game winning streak, because it was really good. They played some really good football, but today they came up short in a game that they really couldn't afford to come up short in. And that is ultimately what is the big problem here for the Denver Broncos, is you can't have your quarterback play like this in these situations. Granted, again, I will say he was under pressure, but there were plenty of times where he had clean pockets and he failed to deliver. He had clean pockets and he broke free from clean pockets a little bit too early. Yeah, man, absolutely devastating. What happens if the Browns lose with the Colts? So right now with this Colts game, obviously Tennessee needs to hold on here. That'll help us out. Let's go ahead and actually bring up the New York Times playoff simulator. So right now, following that loss, the Denver Broncos have a 36% chance to make the playoffs, according to the New York Times playoff simulator. Sorry, I just got to log into my New York Times account so this pop-up ad will go away. And I'll bring that in here. All right, here we go. The Steelers look vulnerable now. They really do, especially if Mitch Trubisky has to play for them. All right, Broncos. Sorry, guys. This is being completely uncooperative here. Here we go. Okay. Oh, well, that hadn't updated yet. So the Texans lost. That now drops the Broncos' chances down to 19%. Broncos currently have a 18% chance, according to this New York Times playoff simulator, to make the playoffs following this Texans loss. Obviously, with the Cardinals beating the Steelers, that does help our cause. That does indeed help our cause a little bit. And then right here, we need the Rams to beat the Browns today. We really need the Rams to beat the Browns. And then if the Titans come away with a win, Chargers obviously beat the Patriots. So right now, basically, it's going to wash out to about a 25% chance for the Broncos to make the playoffs. It averaged out right here at 23. This loss was devastating, man. This loss was absolutely devastating. If we had won this game, it would have shot our playoff chances all the way up into the 60s right here. Now, the Broncos are really in a tough situation. They are... Sorry, let's go ahead and put that right there. Yeah. So now the Broncos are in a really tough situation. They need several things to happen here. First of all, you need the Patriots to somehow beat the Steelers. That's going to be a big one next week. You need the Bengals to beat the Colts. You need the Texans. You need the Jets to beat the Texans. That one's really tough. Chiefs to beat the Bills, and then we've got to beat the Chargers. If those happen, that'll shoot our playoff odds back up to the 60s. So, again, guys, let's see what happens if the Steelers... Okay, it's still around in the 40s right there. We basically really, really need some other things to happen here at this point. Then you move into the Week 15. You got to beat the Lions. You need the Bears to somehow beat the Browns. You need the Raiders to beat the Chargers. You need the Titans to beat the Texans. This was a devastating loss for the Broncos' playoff hopes. It really was. Again, we're not out of it yet. The Broncos still have a chance, but they need help. They need help. Refs were terrible today. Many bad calls and non-calls for both teams. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. But at the end of the day, you've got to play better, and you've got to be able to overcome ref ball. The Broncos were actually able to overcome the ref ball in some of their games. I think especially the Cleveland Browns game, they were able to overcome the ref ball. But the Broncos in this game were not able to overcome the ref ball, but they also weren't able to overcome their own self-inflicted wounds. We think especially to that underthrown ball that should have been a pass interference. Yes, it should have been a PI, but it also should have been a walk-in touchdown. I'm just so upset that interception wasn't even an interception. Troutman caught it. Hold on, let me go back and see again here. Oh, Joe Flacco throws a touchdown to Jerome Ford on his first possession for the Cleveland Browns. Of course he does. Wide open. Joe Flacco is 4 for 5 for 65 yards and a touchdown. The Broncos really, really need the Cleveland Browns to lose today. That is not good at all. All right, it's 1st and goal now for the Colts. Let's see if they punch it in here. Minshew, incomplete. 2nd down and goal. Again, guys, we really, really need the Tennessee Titans to eke out a win here. I'm curious to see what a tie would do in this situation. 2nd down and goal for the Colts. One-on-one coverage at the top of the screen here for Indianapolis. Minshew, end zone touchdown. Indianapolis wins. That's devastating, man. That's devastating. Now let's come back over here. I'll reset the playoff engine. That one just hurt, man. The Broncos really, really needed the Colts to lose this game. So now that just buried us further behind because... Let's come over here to the screen. Obviously, with this loss, that knocks our playoff chances down around the 1920s, depending on how you want to put it. Colts win today, knocks it down even further. That now knocks it down to in the teens. Cardinals win. That helped it a little bit. Again, we really, really need the Cleveland Browns to get a win. Or we really, really need the Los Angeles Rams to beat the Cleveland Browns. If the Los Angeles Rams beat the Cleveland Browns, that at least keeps Denver somewhat alive. But this loss screwed them. It really did. because now you're depending on other teams to help us, and we've got to be perfect down the stretch. This loss definitely screwed the Broncos, and the Indianapolis win screwed them. Indianapolis, in fact, is now at the 7th seed. Houston's at the 8th seed, and Denver is at the 9th seed. That's exactly where we did not need to be. That was devastating for us, man. If we lost our game, and if Indianapolis had somehow been able to lose this game, we would have still maybe had a shot. That really screwed us. It sucks. It really does suck, but that's where the Broncos are right now. Oh, man, let's see if the press conference ever showed up on Facebook here, or on Twitter. Oh, man, that's devastating. It's absolutely devastating, Broncos country. I don't understand why the press conference never showed up. Sean Payton said on the last play he'll have to see the film on Russell Wilson's interception. Would it have been better for Russ to throw the ball away since it was 3rd down? I probably think it would have, honestly. Broncos coach Sean Payton said they continued to battle but just didn't make enough plays, said they were too sloppy. And that's an understatement. They were absolutely sloppy in this one. They just didn't take advantage when they needed to take advantage of opportunities. They had opportunities to come out with this one. They had opportunities to eke out a win, quite frankly, and they just didn't do it. Russell Wilson did not play well enough in this game whatsoever. He really didn't. There were some tipped balls, don't get me wrong, but there was just way too many bad plays. In fact, you look at this one right here. Let's transition over. This is one where it's 2nd down and 6. Russell Wilson is at the 42-yard line right here. 2 receivers set on each side. Split field here for the Houston Texans. The middle of the field is open. So what they're going to do is they're going to run Courtland Sutton on just a little post route. And Russell Wilson... Sorry, I don't know why there are captions there. Russell Wilson is just going to flat out... Oh, I'm sorry. Courtland Sutton's over here. He's right here. Sorry. Yeah, they're just going to run him on a little double move post. And Wilson underthrows that ball. And Derek Stingley is able to pick it off. If Wilson doesn't underthrow that ball, man, that's potentially a walk-in touchdown. And then another one, I'll see if I can go ahead and find the clip of the play where Russell Wilson could have very easily had a walk-in touchdown, but underthrew it to Marvin Mims. I mean, again, Russell Wilson had a chance to really have a big day today, but he just didn't do it. He didn't come up in those big situations that we really needed him to come up in. All right, well, I can't find that play. I'm not going to say that it was a completely bad day from Russell Wilson, too, because the touchdown to Courtland Sutton was absolutely beautiful. I mean, here's this play right here. The touchdown to Courtland Sutton. This was absolutely beautiful. Play action right there. He steps up. Just got to pause it so we don't get a copyright claim. I love this from Russ. See, this is good stuff. Gave his guy a chance right there. Love that all day long. But when you have the version of Russ that's underthrowing Marvin Mims on a walk-in touchdown, or the version of Russ that's underthrowing Courtland Sutton on a post route, the Broncos aren't going to be able to consistently win with that level of quarterback play. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, we might have to pivot back towards the conversation of the Denver Broncos moving on from Russell Wilson at the end of this year. If he's going to come up like that in these key situations, then the Broncos are not going to go where they need to go with Russell Wilson at quarterback. This is a game where the Broncos may have to consider moving on. He's played well over the last couple of weeks, but in these key games, in these key moments, you cannot have Russ go out there and have a performance like that. You just can't do it. Yes, the first interception was tipped at the line of scrimmage, but it was also a telegraphed stare down from Russell Wilson. That was just not a great play. You can't stare down a quick outbreaking throw to the outside like that. You just can't stare it down. Doesn't matter because the Broncos can't compete. If they play like that, they certainly cannot compete. And that loss was devastating to their playoff chances. they need help now from other teams in order to make the playoffs. The Broncos obviously had a really storybook middle of the season there on that 5-game winning streak, but a lot of it was predicated on getting turnovers. A lot of it was predicated on Russell Wilson not putting the ball in harm's way. A lot of it was predicated on the football, on us taking care of the football. A lot of it was predicated on the run game. A lot of it was just predicated on so many things that didn't happen today and aren't exactly sustainable long term. And Broncos now lose for their first time since the Kansas City Chiefs game on the road. We got the Chargers next week, who are a very, very beatable opponent. They only scored 6 points today against the New England Patriots, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And then we got the Detroit Lions after that, who, as the weeks go on, look more and more like a beatable opponent. So this isn't the end for the Denver Broncos, but it sure did hurt their chances big time. It's not fair how in Week 7, Pat Surtain got an interception and the refs gave the touchdown to the Packers. Why did they not give that touchdown? All right, I want to look at it one more time. Wilson. All right, let me look at it one more time here. I don't know, man. I think that the DB caught it first. He had a cleaner hand on it. Yeah, no. That's an interception. Could Wilson take a pay cut if he was willing to do that? Sure, he could, but the question is, will he be willing to do that? I don't necessarily think so. Maybe he will. I don't know. I don't know how Russ would feel about that. That's the only scenario where I see Russell Wilson still being a Denver Bronco after this year, is if he does indeed agree to take a pay cut. But he just wasn't good enough in this game, and if that's what we're going to get from Russ in those big key moments, then it's just not going to be good enough. It's just not going to be good enough. It's not fair how... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. Troutman had it first, not fair. Yeah, but he didn't have it clean. He did not. And that was actually Lucas Kroll. He didn't have it clean, though. That's the problem. He did not have it clean. He had it kind of on his mitts, and then ultimately it ended up a lot cleaner by Jimmy Ward, I believe it was. Yeah. As much as I'd like to say that was a catch by the tight end, it just wasn't there. That's an interception. All right, Broncos country, I'm going to go ahead and dip out of here and start making some videos for the post game. I'm really frustrated after this one, guys. I can tell that everyone else is too. Again, man, we got the Chargers next week. It's on to LA. We are not exactly out of it yet, but this loss definitely hurt the Broncos' playoff chances. It hurt them big time. All right, Broncos country, before we get out of here, if you could just do me a big favor and leave a like on this video as well as subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support, helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys.